Hi, I'm Jim Harris. I'm an international best-selling author on disruptive innovation. And I'm here today with Heiko Claussen, SVP at AspenTech. And we're going to be talking about sustainability today. And sustainability is increasingly important for your customers. There's a whole category called ESG, environmental sustainability and governance. And that an ESG focus is increasingly a focus for all publicly traded companies. So, what are your insights on sustainability and why it's so important and how you can help your customers?
Yeah, I mean, sustainability is key, and it has been a key for us since the 40 years of our existence. But now it becomes more and more clear that in order to fight climate change, there has to be some change in the industry, and that has various aspects. And we're trying to help our customers in all of them. So on the one side, it's about driving innovation on new technologies, for example, hydrogen economy and how this can be enabled. Customers can try this out in some of our examples that we're publishing, on these areas. Then we have on the other side monitoring. So, we have dashboards where you can understand what the usage is on CO2, for example, or other emissions. And as you know, knowing your biggest opportunities is the first step of improving it. Additionally to the fact that in many areas we have to document and report on these emissions. Yeah.
So, one of the things that is an insight for me is any time that you eliminate waste, you improve efficiency, you reduce water use or energy use, it is all a sustainability story because waste is just inefficiency. So if, for instance, in a pharmaceutical manufacturing process, we have an entire bad batch of vaccines, we have to reproduce that. And that's a huge waste because all the energy to produce it is wasted. So increasing quality, cutting waste, these are sustainability stories, but we haven't necessarily in manufacturing thought of it that way. Is that true?
That's definitely true. And so it's about utilizing new technologies, changing processes, and by improving the way you optimize the systems, also cutting down on existing manufacturing processes on the waste. I mean, the best way of saving or being sustainable is by cutting waste. It's everyone wins. It's a easy story there. But also on the other aspects, we're very, very active in driving this change. We're, for example, member of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste to drive circular economy in the future and enable, for example, plastics recycling. And we are very broadly engaged in this space, helping our customers on this journey.
So, water, if you cut water use, you can actually get a double benefit because you also save on the electricity to move the raw water around or to process it. So if you can move to a closed loop system, for instance, where you're not taking fresh water and diluting it and using it in your process and then having an effluent, if you just have a circular process in manufacturing, you can substantially reduce water usage by more than 99% and at the same time save electricity and thereby save carbon emissions. Have you worked with clients around moving to closed loop systems?
Yes, definitely. In the water space, we're helping our customers, but also in the pharma space. And there's a lot of value in going from a batch type application where we have solutions as well, but going to a continuous operation. And this way you can continuously tune and improve your process, and you're going to be so much more efficient and in the end also sustainable.
So let's just talk about some use cases, some case studies. I was reading about one Korean chemical plant that you helped them reduce their CO2 emissions by 30%. What are some other cases that you've been involved with?
So we've also been, and there are many success stories, but for example, in the petrochemical space, one of our customers is able to build a hybrid model from a reservoir, and in this way bring it into our tool chains and optimize it jointly with the facilities of the on the surface. So this hybrid modeling, this data-driven approaches, really also is an opportunity as a glue between external tool chains and our tool chains. And by bringing these things together, we can optimize jointly and drive a lot of additional value. In this case, the customer had an improvement of 8% in net present value.
So let's just drill down for a layperson, person on the street, the use of tool chains and hybrid models. The way I would interpret this is from our vast experience of working with customers, we see repetitive challenges that organizations have, and we build tools for those that then can be used with other clients to help them get up to speed faster. Would that be something? Am I understanding this correctly?
I mean, that is one of the aspects. I mean, we are basically enabled through the domain knowledge that we have in the corporation to model these processes on the first principle level very accurately. And then we are adding information from our data science teams to enrich basically these models with real data. So you're fitting a model for a particular application, a particular asset from that customer that can then also consider more complex phenomena like aging, fouling, etc.
So this is another great example about why partnerships are important. You know, many organizations will have a chief sustainability officer, but they don't have any line of insight into the manufacturing process, right? And really, we need to partner with the domain expertise of the manufacturing process and people who work in that, along with the AI expertise of an industrial AI. So we really need all three. If we're going to achieve the sustainability outcomes we want, we're going to have to engage the lines of business and improve the processes we have inside an organization and use industrial AI for that.
Exactly. So it's a very important focus to drive this collaboration with customers, with partners, within teams, with product management, to as a team basically make this all more efficient and more powerful.
I was working with owners of oil sands, large multi-billion-dollar CapEx projects in Alberta, and a number of the owners on designing and building them felt the amount of inefficiency and waste was upwards of 30%, which is a staggering number given the capital intensity of these projects. Now, that's not operating them, that's building them. What do you see as the potential low-hanging fruit, a very easy to achieve number for a generic organization? Now, I know what you're going to answer right away, Heiko. It depends on the industry. I know that. But just if you had to pick a number, organizations in general could see a 10% improvement in operational efficiency and reduction of waste by looking at their operations.
I mean, you've given already two very good actual customer examples, one being a saving of 30% of CO2, another one being improvement of 8% on the net present value. You see similar value gains in other spaces, like you're reducing flaring of cracked gas when you have a startup, and you can shorten the process or make it more efficient of more than 100 tons there. So that's, there's a lot of value. In particular, bringing AI into the space basically elevates this to the next level, where you can drive even efficiency forward, because you can adjust to basically the process in real time, but also to very particular assets. In this way, better model, better optimize, real time with the plant asset in the loop, and that really makes a difference. And then on the other side, by using AI and some hybrid modeling technology, you can scale to much larger problems, which then helps you, leverage more synergies. I mentioned before this one use case with just combining a subsurface model with a plant. But imagine you attach, the refinery, the chemical plant, the supply chains, and in the future, this complexity of these models will increase more and more and more. And using AI is really the key to solving such complex problems.
Which leads me to an unrelated question, which is, what's the best way to start? I mean, one approach would be to say, we're going to take some low-hanging fruit, something that will have a fast payback, a big ROI, and focus on it first and prove out the value of implementing industrial AI to the owners, and then roll it out into different departments and applications within the manufacturing process. Would you agree that's a good way for an organization that wants to start to begin?
So it depends always on the point. So for us, it's really critical to scale. So given that we are a market leader in the space, it gives an opportunity even for smaller enhancements to have a huge impact, because we have this scale and can distribute and help many of our customers. For a customer themselves that want to be more active in the AI space, it's quite a good idea to start maybe with an industrial data scientist, because that person has on the one side the domain knowledge and can quickly easily interface in the team and add this AI aspect to it. Can maybe inform what kind of data to record, to build models, can utilize tool chains that to integrate these models, run these models. So this is a good first step, in my opinion, to prove it out, prove the value out for that organization. And then on the long run, there's a lot of value to building a diverse team for on the AI space, because if you want to address a very volatile market, you would like to cover a broad range of expertises in order to be flexible in the future.
So we have a dual challenge. Organizations are challenged to increase output. Say, if you're a pharmaceutical company producing vaccines in a pandemic, and at the same time, lower our carbon footprint, lower our ecological footprint. So that's a dual challenge: raise production and cut environmental impacts at the same time. Like, this would seem to be impossible if we do things the way we've always done them. It is impossible because we already have lower outputs and higher throughputs if we could do it with our current process. So by definition, we have to change. We have to innovate because of this dual challenge. How can industrial AI help your customers with this dual challenge?
Okay, so the dual challenge, as you mentioned, is key. So, and we already addressed before that there are ways to easily save on both the emissions and improve throughput. That is, if you're cutting waste. So this is basically the easiest way to address both sides. But there's just so much you can do. And if you reach this limit, then it's about seeing what kind of other technologies can you utilize to become more efficient, to become maybe more with a lower carbon footprint, or other aspects that you want to optimize. And angles that you have there are to be utilizing data-driven technologies to adjust better to the assets at hand, to use real-time optimization with the plant assets in the loop, as for example our GDOT system. You have possibilities to optimize on the supply chain and be particularly nimble and flexible in current VUCA environment there. It makes a lot of impact. So there's a lot of areas where you can tune and improve. Also on the side of changing the way or what kind of technologies we utilize, there's a vast set of opportunities of processes that have a similar output. And in some scenarios, we even find that there's not a significant reduction of efficiency necessary to improve emissions. It's just that it hasn't been in scope so much in some players, and there are lots of opportunities that are still low-hanging fruits.
Well, it reminds me of a saying, if you can't measure, you can't manage. If we don't have the data to have insight into these scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, we can't lower our emissions. So having that data and moving from big data to smart data is very important for sustainability.
Yes, and you see more and more also regulatory activity there, whether there's a clear cost put towards emission, and that helps in a way to set a particular value in the cost function and trade it off between efficiencies. But additionally to this, I mean, there's a lot of ambition in our industry to adjust, to adapt, to improve, because we all know that is the future.